Have you ever stood in the middle of a screaming, crowded sidewalk, surrounded by thousands of people, and felt completely invisible? It is a highly specific kind of isolation. The louder the city gets, the quieter you feel inside of it. That specific flavor of urban melancholy can feel entirely random, like a weather pattern that just settles over you. But it actually has a measurable structure. It is an architecture that can be mapped out and understood piece by piece. By learning to map the blueprints of this urban loneliness, we can begin to translate our own feelings of modern alienation into something concrete. This is the Bengali poet Bhaskar Chakraborty. He is a master architect of this exact type of melancholy. He avoids writing simple, direct statements about being sad. Instead, he builds specific, dense environments out of ordinary observations. To see how these observations function, we use a three-step framework, the OAE method. This is our checklist for navigating his work: object, absurdity, and emotion. When reading abstract art, it is incredibly easy to get lost in the imagery. Applying this logical framework gives us a mechanism to extract deep, precise emotional meaning from what initially looks like a random collection of words. Here is a poem by Chakraborty focusing on a mundane situation. At the top stanza, the text begins with a thought about a motor car. We start with step 1, identifying the object. Here, it's the motor car, a standard symbol of modern, mobile, upper-class city life. Next, step 2, finding the absurdity. The narrator states that he will learn exactly how one is supposed to sit inside this car. Adults do not typically need to study how to sit down in a vehicle. Finally, step 3, rendering the emotion. The absurdity of needing to study how to sit in a car reveals a deep class alienation. The narrator feels like an imposter navigating the modern city. He uses this cold, urban object to mask a profound internal disconnection. Let's see what happens when the imagery gets more extreme. This is a poem titled Asthma. Applying step 1, our object is the physical and medical struggle to breathe, anchored at the top by the title. The narrator is physically suffocating in the urban environment. Now step 2, the absurdity. Midway through the poem, the narrator suddenly claims that the giraffe is a strange animal, but he has managed to learn some of its language. Which brings us to step 3, emotion. Identifying with a silent, awkward, alien animal measures his total inability to connect with humans walking beside him. This is Chakraborty's core rule. The extreme absurdity is the exact logic of his loneliness. Let's put this framework to the test. Here is a short 4-line poem titled Horse at the bottom of the page. Pause the video right now. Read these 4 lines and apply the OAE method. Find the object, the absurdity, and the emotion. Let's look at how these pieces fit. Step 1, the object. We have a modern building defined by the phrases "from the 3rd floor" and "falling on cement." It represents brutal, rigid city architecture. Step 2, the absurdity. The narrator describes the horse, a living symbol of wild freedom, smashed or falling out of this concrete building. Finally, step 3, the emotion. The image of a horse breaking against the concrete shows the violent destruction of the wild, free spirit when it collides with the unforgiving reality of the city. We have rendered a clear emotional map from a complex metaphor. Let's apply this code to the poet's deepest theme, pure existential isolation. This is the poem at the bottom of the page, titled Life. The absurdity here lies in a stark contrast. The text describes destitute people out in the freezing winter, sleeping on the footpath, yet they are laughing. Meanwhile, the narrator is alone in the slight dark of his room, panting 24 hours a day. The people with nothing find a way to laugh together in the cold. The narrator, safely inside, is suffocating. He uses the harsh, highly visible reality of the city streets to highlight the invisible, inescapable nature of his own psychological isolation. That is the ultimate formula driving Chakraborty's work. You take an urban object, add an absurd action, and it outputs a precise measurement of existential loneliness. There is a beautiful paradox built into this poetry. By taking the time to engineer these specific step-by-step images of isolation, the poet actually invents a shared language for our own unspoken feelings. By participating in this construction, we find ourselves inside the logic of his isolation, and in doing so, we bridge the gap between his mind and ours. The modern city ultimately feels just a little bit less lonely.